What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So, Agatha All Along about a week ago dropped its last couple episodes on Disney Plus right before Halloween. I've seen all the episodes and I'm here to give my thoughts. Before I begin, I do want to say this will be like a lot of my other recent show and movie reviews where I'll start off spoiler free and then I'll give a warning down below that says spoilers and you all can just skip to the end to hear my final concluding thoughts and the rating. Anyways, quick point of reference before I begin this review. I really enjoyed WandaVision, which also had the same showrunner, I believe, and creative team behind it, Marvel Studios. I thought the finale could have done things a little bit better, but overall, definitely by far one of their better shows, top 3 or 4 for sure. But going into Agatha, I've definitely had my reservations. A lot of the trailers that I saw drop didn't really win me over all that well. Yes, I like Kathryn Hahn's performance as Agatha, but to me this didn't really feel like a character that we needed to see explored that much more than we already did in WandaVision. Like, this just really felt to me like back when they were doing content for content's sake and just making every single character have their own movie, spin-off show, whatever. That said, I gotta say, the show actually surprised me, guys. I really enjoyed myself with it. It's not a perfect show, and I'll get to some of the negatives first, but there's also quite a lot of positives that I want to get into. And starting off, performances all around were really, really great. Kathryn Hahn once again kills it as Agatha. She just brings such a fun, wicked energy, you could say, to the role. Very bad girl style, and I really love her performance. I don't think I've seen her in anything outside of her role as Agatha, but she seems like a really great actor, and I hope she gets a lot more roles going down the road if she hasn't already. And Aubrey Plaza as Rio, I thought she did a great job as well. Very much a fun little kind of who is she, kind of mischievous, yet also not seemingly entirely evil character that kind of plays off Agatha really well, and the two just have really great chemistry whenever they're on screen together. Joe Locke as Billy, aka, well, I think it's already been confirmed that it's Wiccan, so I'm not going to include this as a spoiler. Again, really great performance. He really fits the role well. I don't know a lot about the character, but just from the images I've seen of him and what little I have read about him, Joe Locke just owns this role really well. So again, the performances are just really great. I think the other witches, I can't think of all their names. There's like Lilia, and some of the other ones, I apologize, but for not knowing the names. But, you know, they all give great performances, even if they're not the most memorable characters. And continuing on with this really is a fun, fresh dive into more of the supernatural side of Marvel. I mean, yes, it sucks that Blade is probably not coming out till 2026 now, but at the same time, we are getting some slow kind of introductions, you could say, into the supernatural side of Marvel. We had Werewolf by Night that I thought was excellent a few years ago. WandaVision and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness kind of teased, you know, the more witchcraft, supernatural, occult side of Marvel, but this really goes headfirst into it in a really good way. Some of it can be a bit confusing, which I'll get into in my kind of more negative thoughts on the show, but where it stands, I really enjoyed kind of seeing how the supernatural side can play into the MCU rules, the way it works, how certain characters interact with really these weird environments that we haven't really seen in any MCU project before. So I just thought the world building in this was quite a lot of fun. And it definitely makes it more distinct and different than other MCU offerings that we've gotten the past few years. There's also quite a lot of Easter eggs for other popular witch-themed movies and shows. I mean, there's Wizard of Oz, there's Maleficent, there's, I'm sure, quite a few others that went over my head. So while there are quite a few Marvel Easter eggs, especially for those that know the lore of Agatha in the comics, or Wiccan, or, you know, really any of these other major characters, there's also quite a bit of other Disney-themed Easter eggs, and again, like, you know, whether you're a Wizard of Oz fan, whatever, there's really going to be something here that you can probably pick up or catch the reference, joke, homage to, whatever you want to call it. So I did think that was a lot of fun as well. Also, I think this show does a really good job, and I think it does it better than a lot of the other Disney Plus shows, and that it feels both like a long format movie, like, you know, again, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye. They all kind of have that movie cinema level feel to it, yet it also feels episodic. Like each episode, or at least the first like 3/4 of this series does, it has you introduced to a new dilemma, problem, whatever you want to call it, and then by the time you get to that end, it teases something else, but that other quest, side quest, whatever you're going to call it, the kind of central premise of the show, that's more or less wrapped up. So again, it feels both like you could definitely watch this in sequential order and it totally feels like a movie, but it also definitely feels episodic. So I think it struck a really good balance that a lot of other Disney Plus shows miss. Again, I would compare this to WandaVision and Loki because both of them also had, well, more so WandaVision than Loki, but Loki too to a certain degree, where again, these episodes just really feel like actual TV episodes, albeit connected to a larger and bigger plot. And I think a big part of that is, again, this is one of those few Disney Plus shows that actually had a showrunner, so being able to, I think, kind of keep an eye on everything that this project was doing, and Jack Schaefer, I think her name is, who also was a showrunner for WandaVision. And I think all of this, just her, I think, being at the forefront, really helped keep this series one of the more consistent Disney Plus shows. A lot of these Disney Plus shows, as we all know, unfortunately, they start out really, really strong, a good majority of them at least, and then completely fall by the wayside near the end. However, I don't feel like Agatha falls into that trap. I did enjoy the first couple episodes. I didn't really love them, but I was like, there's a lot of potential with this. And, really throughout the show, it just kind of kept that same energy. There wasn't really like a, oh my gosh, I love this. But there also wasn't a, this took a giant nosedive from where it began. It really just, again, felt consistent, solidly entertaining throughout. And they actually don't fumble the ball at the ending that I'm going to talk about more in my spoilers here shortly. And real quick, again, spoiler-free thoughts. I do want to touch on the finale, but again, I'm not going to go into any detail yet. The finale is actually surprisingly emotional and poignant. Like, there's quite a few plot twists that I really didn't see coming that I thought were absolutely brilliant. Some things maybe needed to be explained more, but at the same time, I thought the conclusions and the answers we got were really satisfying. Because when the show began, I was kind of like, they're going to have to, I think, find a way in which to tell a satisfying, like they're going to have to, because well, I'll put it this way, they introduced so many ideas in the first couple episodes, like really interesting scenarios and ways that the story could play out, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of ways this could go, but this is a show, again, like WandaVision, that's built on the mystery, so if what we find out in the finale isn't satisfying, it's going to really put a damper on the show. But again, I thought this did a wonderful job at really not just giving us great answers, but it made the other episodes better in retrospect. So I think, again, in this area, I think the show absolutely succeeded. So before I get into the spoilers, I do want to talk some some negatives, one of which is there are quite a few plot holes in this show. Not a lot, nothing that entirely really took me out, but it is worth mentioning that it does at times seem like things are kind of brought up, or that something's going to play a massive impact later on in the show that doesn't quite completely form out, or at least enough to where I would feel satisfied. Also, the first few episodes do take a little while to get going. And again, I've seen through each episode twice now, but I rewatched the majority of the episodes before the finale. So I feel like knowing where things headed in the finale, if I went back and watched it in retrospect, I totally think that these shows would be improved and the slow burn would be worth it. But it is worth noting for first-time viewers that there isn't quite the same satisfying hook, you could say, for lack of a better term, that there was in WandaVision or Loki or some of the better Disney Plus offerings. That said, I'm going to move on to some spoilers. So again, if you haven't seen this show yet, or you're not completely caught up and don't want to know what happens in the last few episodes, here's your warning right now. Let's talk some spoilers. And talking about the finale, I loved the idea that Wiccan was the one that created the Witch's Road, that Agatha had been spending all her time and energy into basically tricking the witches and these other witches, well, stealing their power for herself by tricking them into thinking the Witch's Road exists. So again, and this is one of those things I mentioned earlier where it makes the previous episode better. Agatha's reaction when the road opens up in episode 2, I believe, it's so much better now because you're like, wait a minute, like she had no idea that was going to happen and we didn't catch that early on. And just in general, I thought it was a brilliant twist. Like I'm sure someone out there, because there's been a lot of brilliant theories about the show as it went along, I'm sure somebody thought of this, but I definitely didn't see Wiccan being the one that created the Witch's Road, because his mind is on the same level as Wanda. Similar to how Wanda created the Hex in this reality, so did Wiccan because it's what he wanted. Like, I just thought all of that was really, really well done. And also, I want to touch on the way that they make Agatha a lot more relatable. I mean, let's be real. She killed a dog in WandaVision. Like, there's not a lot coming back from that. And she's never really made out to be a hero per se, but at the same time, when you get to, I think again, it's the final episode 9, you realize you learn more about her son Nicholas, the only person that she really cared for, and then he dies, he gets taken up, and it's just really unfortunate, you know, but then it's like, that was the person that she cared about. So when Death, who, you know, as we find out in the show is actually Rio, takes him away, she's like, I have nothing to lose. So she just goes unhinged, and this Ballad of the Witch's Road that she came up as kind of a almost nursery rhyme for her son Nicholas, she's using to just absolutely demolish these witches' powers and just, you know, build up her, you know, abilities, for lack of a better term. So even though it's hard to really root for her, you also kind of understand the pain that she felt, similar to kind of in WandaVision. It's hard to root for Wanda, but you do understand where she's coming from. And I think going off of this, the only other thing I can say, and this is also kind of a spoiler, but they don't really explain, one of the plot holes that I feel like is worth bringing up, they don't really do a good job of explaining the relationship between Agatha and Rio. You know they came from somewhere, but never in the show was it really explained how they met, how they had the falling out, where things get to, and it's always something they could explain in a new season if they do it. But as of now, we don't really have any answers to that, and that's probably my biggest like plot hole that I wish they could fix. The ending also was quite fun with, you know, Agatha's like, okay, I'm gonna help you find your brother Tommy, so again, it might be a season 2, else I don't know why they would leave it on a cliffhanger like that unless it's going to be explained in a future project. But overall, guys, I had a lot of fun with Agatha. It's not the best Disney Plus show, but it's definitely solid and definitely one of the better offerings, and I'm glad that it's going to continue the hype of Deadpool and Wolverine and hopefully bring things back on track for the MCU. So overall, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, guys, but let me know in the comments down below what you all thought, and make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you liked what you've seen here and you want to see more, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, and check out my other videos in the link in the description down below, and I will see you all later.